Have you been looking for a podcast to help you transform your physical and mental? One that'll shoot you straight between the eyes with truth and no BS, helping you have the right mindset to accomplish things, the iron will and fortitude to follow through with what you say you're going to do. No excuses. Mark owns martial arts schools, and after 30 years, he has some real insight for real talk, real life, real conversations, motivational, fitness, self-defense, weight loss, live from the Great 1-8. This is Real Talk with Mark Cox.
All right. Good morning. You like my fancy?
Yeah, I loved it. It's great.
So this is good. We got one more thing before we get started, but I welcome my guest today. This is Josef Stetter. I'm looking forward to this as just as an entrepreneur, but a business owner, and what you bring to the table. Let me tell everybody about you a little bit, and then I'll let you take over the mic here in just 1 second, okay? For over 16 years, Josef Stetter has incorporated humor, energy, passion, and a full self-expression into his personal and professional life. This is the Land Your Dream Job Now program. This is what I want to talk about right here. This is the most complete job finding program on the market. Josef Stetter brings his 25,000 hours of mastery to a perfect system that guaranteed results. All the trick, tips, tools, and systems to optimize the job search with insider information that you were never taught has helped over 25 people get hired in as little as 2 days. This includes templates of resumes that get you noticed, the top job boards, the top employment agencies, and so much more. This is going to be an awesome hour. Good to see you this morning.
Good Josef, to see you, Mark, and thank you for having me. I appreciate
you're welcome.
You.
It's good. Looking forward to this, man. So I've had on my podcast, all kinds of entrepreneurs and stuff like that, and business people that listen. So I think what you're going to bring to the table is going to be good for both those that are looking for jobs and those that are hiring. I think that you have a unique setup that we can learn from both. So let me ask you this as we get started, because in a hiring process, when you decided to do this, it says you have a program. And do you agree that we don't see much of this taught in school? I know it didn't get taught to any of my. I went over resumes with my own kids, and the way I had my kids do a resume, and that might not even be the right way even after I talked to you today, but it's like I told my son, this is what I look for when somebody comes in my office. Okay. Yep. And so this is where I think that you should go. So let's talk about that. Do you agree that that's just not something taught?
I 100% agree that it's not taught. And I mean, there are like careers program in schools that kind of teach you the foundations. The problem is that we're regurgitating material that's been created, let's say, when the Industrial Revolution first happened, and What Color Is Your Parachute came out in like mid 70s or so, where skills like hardworking, dedicated, committed, and team player are kept being written on a resume. But in 20 years of recruiting, I've met very few people that say, listen, I'm lazy, I'll show up late, none of my work will be any good, and I really hate people, please hire me, right? So,
contact the main office, please. Thank
right,
you.
so
that's funny.
So there's also, it's subjective, because as a martial artist, for example, your perspective of hardworking might be very different than mine, because you have to achieve certain levels in martial arts. You have to kind of do something. So, I usually give a simple example of, if I compare, let's say, a nurse that worked during the pandemic versus an accountant that works in public accounting. During tax season, it's mandatory for the accountant to work 80 hours a week. So what's hard working? 100, versus a nurse that worked 5 hours of overtime because there wasn't enough nurses or the other shift didn't arrive. Does that mean that the nurse is less hardworking than the accountant because she worked less hours? No, because there's a different level of stress, there's different levels of understanding. So most people that have been taught to write a resume follow the same cookie cutter, generic template that everybody else is doing.
Mm. Looks like you have a fan online that has your same last name.
That is my amazing and incredible wife.
That's good. Nice to see you online. That's awesome. Okay, so let me ask this. When I just every time I have these things, I get to kind of dabble into my own life to tell you what's going on with it, and then get some feedback so you can help others with it. So my son, he's going to graduate college here in May, right?
Okay.
Now he just happens to be really good at sales. He's just a good salesman, and he's a hard worker. He's a lot like I am that way. And so when he goes, he's working at Zoomies, and he's our top sales person. He was the same thing at another store. And so now he wants to go into, he's like, Dad, I think I want to go into the corporate. I think I want to be a buyer for them.
Right.
Right. So they usually recruit within, but there are ways probably if there's other people they're looking at, how to bump his. Right.
I'm going to answer that in two ways for you, if I may. Right. So the first is what I call the 5 cardinals of a sins of a resume. And the second is an example from my life in sales, but also relates to your son, if that's okay with you, Mark. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the 5 cardinal sins of a resume. Number 1, you use Times New Roman, Arial, or Calibri as your font, because those are the default fonts in Microsoft Word, for example. Number 2, you use the black dots, I'll call them, your squares or your hyphens as your bullet points, right? Because that's what we've been taught. Those are what our standard resume should look like. And I'll kind of quickly refer to, if you watch the movie Legally Blonde, when Elle Woods or Reese Witherspoon applies for not only Harvard, but for the internship, she sends a pink scented resume. And everyone looks and goes, it's pink, but it's scented, right? But they remember it. Right. Now, I'm not saying you need a pink scented resume, but adding a little bit personality, such as changing the font or making your headings a different color, breaks the eyes in reading black and white all the way through, especially when you have a big pile of resume that you're processing. The third area is to avoid the section called skills, where you write generic information such as I'm hardworking, dedicated, committed team player with excellent communication skills and interpersonal skills, because again, everybody writes that, and your interpretation of it is different.
So true.
The fourth mistake is kind of doing a chronological or functional resume, where if you've lost your job, let's say recently, and you're working retail, the only thing they see is the retail, because most employers spend 8 to 30 seconds reading your resume, which means they look at the top third to the top half. If some of the first page, if something catches their attention, they put you in the yes file. And the biggest mistake of all, and this is where I think more people need to change drastically, is that people write, I know how to do this, and I have experience in this, instead of quantifying the results that they produce. So in the sales world, if I say to you, listen, I'm a phenomenal salesperson. I know how to do B2B, B2C, account management, lead generation, relationship building. I've worked retail. I've done door-to-door sales. I've done car sales. I've done, private college sales. I've done recruiting sales. And I list there. I've given you a lot of jargon, but I haven't proven to you that I know how to sell. If I give you an example, which is a real example, and say, I worked for a private college that before I came in did $530,000 in sales for the entire year. In 1 month, I generated $860,000 in sales for them. Which one would convince you more that I know how to sell? All of the jargon or the results?
The results, for sure.
Right.
Yes,
so for your son, right, you mentioned he works for Zapier now and he wants to kind of progress. He needs to highlight how good of a salesperson he is. He's the top producer. He's surpassing expectations by 50% or whatever that quantifiable. He's doing an average of this much sales per month. His biggest sale was this, whatever quantifiable that says, this is how good I am. And when executives see it in front of them and go, holy smokes, there's a level of, I don't want to lose that, because that is a lot of revenue for the company. But if your son goes, I'm a really good salesperson, and I have a consistent track record, he might be using some of the lingo. You still need to use lingos like B2B, B2C, and all that, but you need to quantify it. You need to do this. I love giving this example as a kind of, we'll call it oxymoron. If you're interviewing a receptionist for your business and someone comes to you and says, I know how to answer the phone, I hope you look at them in shock and go, really? A receptionist that knows how to answer the phone? I did not know that. Because unless they live in an igloo, a cave, or choose to practice the faith of Mennonite, most people on earth know how to press the green button and go, hello, how can I help you? Right?
True. That's true. That's true. And I laugh because I've run into this myself. Right.
So,
I've run into this myself. If I'm looking for an instructor, they say, well, I've instructed class. Well, I certainly, yes,
you would hope that if you have, let's say, 20, 30 years of experience in martial arts, you've instructed a class. But if you're hiring an instructor, like how big of the class, how advanced were the training? Where did you have people that trained in other martial arts that challenged you, that you were able to kind of demonstrate your skill and show that you're very good at what you do? Can you break down how to do, let's say, a complex move in a way that the average person can understand it? So again, it's a tying in of the questions you're asking, but also what are you looking for when you're hiring a person? Because just saying that you have martial arts experience might not be enough, kind of thing. Like if you look at professional athletes, there's a lot of phenomenal professional athletes, but very few of them become coaches because it's a different mindset.
I think that's 100%. That you're 100% correct on that. All right, so I'm looking through your resume right here. So I want to get onto this. I want to dabble into a few things here.
By all means.
But I want to talk about your book first, and then I want to highlight some of the stuff that you have here, because it's really interesting. Everything here, it interests me because I have so many students that this interview will resonate through my school, because I got a lot of young adults here.
Right.
And I think that they need something. They need to hear some stuff like this, some real talk that can help them in that job world. So let me have 40 seconds, because
Okay.
we do have a brand new sponsor of our show. So give me 40 seconds and we're going to jump into that. Okay. So hold on one second.
Looking for the best cup of coffee to start your day? Look no further than America's Best Coffee Brew. Our well-crafted coffee is made simple to enjoy, with a smooth and delicious taste that's sure to please. And with our easy doorstep delivery, you don't have to leave the comfort of your home to enjoy it. That's why we only roast our beans when we receive your order, ensuring you get the highest quality cup of joe and most flavorful coffee possible to enjoy the great outdoors or just lounging at home. Order today and experience the bold, rich, and authentic taste of America's Best Coffee Brew. Order now at americasbestcoffeebrew.com.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. That's the first time I had a sponsor, just so you know. So you're my very first show with it.
Congratulations. That's exciting news.
And their coffee is really good. As a matter of fact, I'm drinking it right now.
Excellent.
So I want to talk right here. This is the part of it that I'm going to read that you sent me, right?
Yep.
It says here, I don't want to give everything away because this is probably a program that you sell, I would imagine, correct?
I have a program to help people land their dream job. Yes.
So let's just bullet some stuff, and then we'll talk about where they can get the full access to it. Okay. So it says, I want right here, how to wow the interview. 7 simple rules to stand and get hired. Let's take at least 2 of them. Okay. Tell me your 2 that you think are the most important out of the 7.
So here's the thing, the 7 actually go hand in hand. So it's not that they're more important, but I would say that similar to what I said about the resume, right? Most people, when asked, tell me about this job, go into autoresponder. I'm very good at my job. I know how to do this. I'm dedicated. I have experience with this. It's not exciting. So I say change the energy by using what I call 9 power words: proud, significance, success, contributions, achievements, accomplishments, results, importance, and impact. Because if you go into an interview and like, I'm really proud of the fact that I'm the #1 salesman in there, you don't believe yourself. Neither is the employer going to be, right? So when you're proud of something, your chest will be out, your shoulder blades are back, you're speaking from your diaphragm, you're excited about what you have to say, right? So even for you, Mark, as a martial artist, as someone who's run a successful school, as some there, even for this podcast, there's a energy about it that's kind of, this is who I am. So if you're going to use the 9 power words, such as proud, significant, success, contributions, achievements, results, importance, and impact, you need to quantify it. You can't just say, I'm a great salesperson. You need to give me numbers that says, here's the proof behind what I say, which kind of goes to rule number 1, which is confidence, right? Most interviews start with this, what I call wonderfully useless loaded question. So Mark, tell me about yourself, for example. And most people get into a rant of, I have 2 beautiful kids and I love to travel and I love to read. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It has nothing to do with the job, right?
So
but similarly, if you've been, anyone that's kind of worked, even if they've worked retail and they've been promoted, they don't come to you and say, Mark, tell me about yourself. They say, Mark, you're doing a pretty good job. We'd like to give you a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more money. Are you interested? So have the confidence that the interview is a formality and you already have the job. Because similar to, let's say, dating, if a guy approaches a girl, I'm like, hello, hi, hi, can I get your number? His chances are slim and none. The reason I say slim is because somebody might be physically attracted to him, so they'll give him a little bit of chance to try and have a conversation. If you go to a job interview and like, please, please, please give me a job, I'm really hardworking, one of 2 things will happen. 1, they won't hire you because you don't have any confidence in yourself. Or 2, they'll hire you, but they know you're desperate, so they won't pay you anything. Right?
interesting.
So confidence, and then, use power words to make sure your conversation is more meaningful and impactful. Because again, if I just say I know how to do sales and I give you all the acronyms, if I'm interviewing with HR, it's a check mark. Like, yes, you've said the right words. But if HR is presenting this to the director or the VP doesn't care, or the director doesn't care about those words. They care about what are the results that this person produced that matter to me. Because in sales, they teach you about the 80-20 rule, where 80% of your sales will come from 20% of the people. So if you're speaking results, you're speaking the leaders or executives' conversation or listening. They don't care about the word. They care about there. So whether you use ADA, whether you use STAR, whether you use, it doesn't really matter. It's all the same thing. Like, here's the situation. Here's the steps I took to produce what I needed to produce. Here's the results I got, kind of thing. And like I said, one of the 9 words to help you solidify how good of a candidate you are, or why you're the best candidate for the job.
So let me ask you this. Tell me if this is good or bad advice, right? I know that I have a habit if I have a family coming in that's going to start martial arts, right? And if it's sales or sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that stories sell, facts tell, right?
Correct.
And so I think that even myself, like if I was going to come and talk to you, and I see over your shoulder, I see this picture with it looks like an ocean picture right there. Yeah. I'd ask about that. I said, what's that about? Is that something you enjoy?
Listen,
and
yeah,
I get people talking about themselves more than me, and I see that there is a relatability to that. What's your thought on that?
100% relationship building is very important. And unfortunately, with this day and age of social media, we're becoming less and less connected, and more like companies by default say apply online. We've lost that one-on-one, go in person kind of thing. And so people then send out thousands of resumes, go, there's no jobs out there. No, your resume sucks and you haven't been proactive to
Right.
do something, first of all. And second of all, like similar to what you said, you have to understand, I mean, sales is a pain and pleasure principle. So we buy something to create pleasure or we buy something to avoid pain. Either way, in martial arts, it's a little bit of both, because martial arts can get you fit, can get you mentally stronger, can help you prepare. But there's also a fear of, I've been bullied, I've this. And so, yes, connecting with people on whatever level, whether it's an image, whether it's a picture, is great, but don't spend the whole, let's say, interview talking about the picture, because that's also counterproductive, because you're there for a purpose, kind of thing. And I teach, so for example, in networking, this is where this really applies. I go to a lot of networking events, and it never ceases to amaze me the amount of people that come in with a mindset of, I need to collect as many business cards as possible. I need to kind of say everybody hi. And I've had people, while I'm in mid conversations, go, you sound important, give me your card. And then they'll kind of reach out to me the next day, go, I got your card at the networking event, can I get a job? I'm like, who are you? Did we actually talk? Is there anything I should remember about you? Not just, here's my card. Versus coming in with the mindset of, I want to have 3 great conversations and I want to focus on you. So like if I met you, like obviously first thing I would notice about you is the tattoos. Okay, so have a quick conversation about, what got you started into tattoos, or why do you like them, for example, and then kind of get to know who you are. So as a self-defense instructor, great. How long have you been doing it? What do you love about being a self-defense instructor? And start building that relationship about why you love being a self-defense instructor, because my services can come later, because I can tie it into what you've said as a story or what you've said as a background, kind of thing. And most people don't pay attention to that. I remember I was at an event called Networking for Nerds, and I emphasize networking for nerds, right? And I came in, and there was 3 or 4 guys kind of that apparently knew each other that were standing around, and slowly made my way into the conversation. And I'm like, what do you guys do? And they very proudly said that they're technical writers in the IT industry. And I said, okay, great. Do you have samples of your writing on LinkedIn, for example? They're like, no. Why would we do that? I'm like, because you're at an event called Networking for Nerds, trying to drum up business, right? If you're trying to get hired as a technical writer, you should be an event such as the Project Management Institute, where leadership attends, because they're the ones making decisions. And they kind of looked at me like, what makes you such an expert? And when they said that, I kind of took a deep breath and went, let me see. I've been in recruiting for nearly 20 years. I've worked for companies like Deloitte and Touche, Apex Pharmaceuticals, Tata Consulting Services. I've written over 20 manuals for companies. I've published numerous books. I've written articles for big magazines. And, I do career coaching and have helped over 11,000 people. I think that makes me an expert, kind of thing. And all of a sudden, as soon as I kind of gave them my resume, they turned around and were like, what were you saying about LinkedIn that we need to kind of do? And it's like, look, I wasn't coming here to belittle you. I came here to network with you and see who you are. Because obviously as a recruiter, I'm networking with everybody all the time.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But there's a level of, even if you're a technical writer, if someone's coming and asking a question, because there's writing and there's writing. So I need to see your flavor of writing. I need to see the depth that you can write very complex stuff, for example. So if you're not willing to share a sample with me, why would I hire you? Kind of thing. Because again, if you're that good, companies will reach out to you directly. They'll come to you, right? If you are starting out as an entrepreneur, for example, it's the same thing. Your job is to kind of interrupt the noise that exists with the amount of businesses, the amount of coaches that exist right now, and say, here's why I'm unique. Here's what I bring to the table that's a little bit different than everybody else, right? I didn't invent job finding. It existed way before I was even alive. But I have a different thought or a different perspective into, stop being the same as everybody else. Stop having a resume that's black and white, that's chronological or functional, that's, using the same cookie cutter words that looks exactly the same, and then complain that you're not getting a job because nobody's noticing anything exciting about you.
So let me ask you this in your expert opinion, right?
Yep.
So you can see that, I'm going to be 62 this week, right?
You don't look it.
And yeah, I appreciate, I do have some good genes. I get that from my mom. My mom's 80 and she looks like she's 50 years old.
Wow.
So I want to know, because when I went to hire some people, tell me if this is, how do you shrink the gap between my generation and millennials? Because when they come in my office, bro, I am telling you, I am like, it's such a gap.
Oh, it's a massive gap.
But I also understand there's as much as I get on the millennials or the Gen X or whatever you want to call it, but because they just didn't have just a different generation altogether, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
it's also a different communication style.
They bring something to the table that I know is important, that and it's that whole online kind of presence, something that's very easy for them because that's what they do. So, but when they come and talk to me, it's like nails on a chalkboard. I'm like, bro, you need to have some communication skills with actual people.
Absolutely. I find this as a recruiter a huge issue right now where, candidates are ghosting me, candidates are kind of disappearing. But again, it's kind of asking in layman terms. So for you, Mark, you would say, okay, how would you bring in 10 extra students to the studio, for example, and let them kind of explain their idea, right? And say to them, you need to explain to me like I'm a 6-year-old, right? Because they will break down what they will do in social media, let's say on Instagram or TikTok, that is relevant to you or that is interesting to you, right? The communication is very different, but even in the way that you ask a question, and this is where I'd say on the recruiting side, for example, entrepreneurs, when you need to hire people, instead of looking at a resume going, tell me about this job, it is an autoresponder question. Change a few words in the question. What was your biggest success in this job? Right? What were the results that you produced here? Now, when they start speaking about results, as a business owner, you understand results. You understand I need an extra, let's say, 50 students per month. That is my goal for the business. Okay? So if you're coming to me and saying you're going to do all this stuff, break it down. How do I get 50? So if you understand basic marketing concepts, I'm going to put your message in front of 1,000 people. Out of 1,000 people, 100 are going to click, okay, you intrigued me, or they're going to watch the video or something along those lines. From that 100 people, 10 are going to buy whatever introduction offer you offer, such as come in and get 2 classes for free or whatever version of signing up for that, right? Once they're here and they're experiencing how great you are at martial arts and how great you are at kind of teaching and, how dedicated your team is, they'll want to stay because you're opening their eyes to what the experience is. But not to be technical, I'm going to post this video and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, because as you said, Mark, that's probably going to go over your head in terms of, okay, I don't understand why this is important to me. But simplified from here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, here's the results I expect. So, at a cost of, let's say, a Facebook ad, if I'm spending $30 a day, here's what you'll have at the end of the month, because that's the numbers that anybody that's average in marketing will produce. Anyone that's great will produce even better numbers than it. And it's easy to follow, for example, right? But it goes back to not just jargon, but here's the uniqueness that I bring. Here's the why I'm better, different, or other than everybody else that you're speaking to.
Joseph, do you help younger people learn how to communicate with the older generation that's hiring?
Yes. So I do run, let's say, workshops on communication. I encourage younger generations to join Toastmasters clubs, which teaches you the art of public speaking. Because even the filler words like and like but are issues because I've heard conversations where it's like so like yesterday I was having this conversation like, oh my god, and I'm like, you just spent 20 minutes saying you didn't say a single word. How is that a conversation? Right? And
Toastmasters is so awesome for this because I'm in Toastmasters.
yeah.
And
so
then I go back when I started, right? I'll go back now and listen to my first podcast, and I'm like, oh my gosh, stop with the bro. So I do this to myself all the time, and I'll listen to us today, and I'll start doing the counter and go, oh man, I just said that again, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, so we all have those habits, and again, but Toastmasters is an environment. There is various other organizations like the American Professional Association of Speakers and the Canadian Association Professional, like AAPS and CAPS, and there's debate clubs. And at college and universities, those resources are free and available to you. So just go ahead and take advantage. If you're a teenager, there's Toastmasters for teens. There's programs run specifically for teens. And I've run them in the past where I actually had somebody that I spent 2 weeks training them how to do communication. She went to her first public speaking. In the random draw, she was actually first to speak in the contest and came third with 2 weeks of training, kind of thing. And it's, again, sometimes when I interview people, I just kind of like, listen, you telling me that you're a really good worker is not the question I'm asking you. You're telling me that you're dedicated is not the question I'm asking you, because I'm asking you specific results-oriented questions. Like, tell me about the biggest or hardest situation that you've had to overcome at work. Explain to me why was it so complicated and what are the steps you took to kind of create a solution. If you cannot give me that answer, I'm not hiring you, right? And it's amazing to me, even in interview, what you would think is common sense and practice, how far from it can go, right? And I mean, I've been doing this for nearly 20 years, and the stories I have, like, can I share one? It's a little bit, we'll call it AA in terms of content here. So one of my biggest clients was one of the biggest photocopier companies in the world, and needed a senior account executive for the photocopier division, base salary of $150,000, $150,000 in professional commissions. The HR manager was one of the most stiff, rigid, proper women I've ever met in my life. When I say stiff, rigid, I'm talking British proper, like button shirt up to her chin, perfect posture, zero sense of humor. Okay. Yeah. I found a guy that worked directly for one of their biggest competitors, right? Spent an hour basically messaging him saying, do not crack jokes with this woman. Just be strictly professional. First question of the interview, she asked him, what motivates you in life? His answer verbatim, sex and money, in that order. Needless to say, interview was done after one question. And then she called me for an hour and a half and yelled at me for sending somebody so dumb for a $300,000 job. Right? And it's like, seriously? The $300,000 job? Like, even if your best friend's interviewing you, that shouldn't be the first thing out of your mouth, because they still need to take notes on you, right? And trying to be funny is wrong place, wrong time, kind of there. So yeah, I've amassed a collection of stories where it's like, seriously, like I've just lost a few big job orders on stuff that, as a recruiter, I'm going, what is wrong with people? Like, I had one person tell me that, I had a client that needed a senior architect for the security of the bank, basically. And I found a guy that's making 120 right now. My client offered him 180. with a possible 25% bonus, but requested that he come to the office once a week. And he looked at me and goes, yeah, I'm not sure if a $60,000 raise is worth coming into the office once a week.
That's what I'm talking about. I can't with that, man.
Right. So it's like sometimes, right. So sometimes it's one of those things that it's like, I had candidates told me they don't want to double their salary because the title is a little bit less. I'm like, who cares? Call me Bob for all I care if you're going to double my salary, kind of thing. But the whether it's the pandemic or whether it's the generational, a lot of, and this is why I've stopped posting jobs that I recruit for my clients, because nobody reads the job description. I had one of my clients is a fintech company, and I needed a Python React developer with 5 years of experience. And I wrote like this big, so the level of your kind of banner behind us kind of thing, that big in red, bolded, underlined, must have 5 years of experience. And then the rest of the job description was the normal, size 10, 11 font that, you write a job description with. I got 140 resumes of, I'm graduating in 2022 or 2023. Can my first job be $140,000? And I'm like, did you not read the big, bold message that said, must have 5 years of experience? Apparently not. So, this is where I do old school headhunting, and I reach out to people and say, what would it take for you to leave? And I make magic happen for my clients.
I'm listening to the stuff you're saying right now, right? And my podcast called Beyond the Mat, because this is what happens when you take experiences on the mat, you take them outside the mat. And I'm listening to you talk right now because I have a lot of kids that's been with me since they're 3 years old, and now they're in college.
Right.
And this is something that I think I can even talk to them about to help them even more on. Don't discount you coming and teaching classes here as something that's not valuable for an employee. It could probably put them over the top. First of all, getting a black belt is one thing, right? When you go to an employer and says, listen, I've been doing martial arts since I'm 3 years old. I earned a junior black belt when I was 9 or 10. And then I went through the junior black belt ranks. And then I, achieved a adult black belt in 17 and 18 years old. Yep. And I have spent my entire time helping others overcome their insecurities on the mat and helping them become a better version of themselves.
And you've demonstrated hardworking, dedication, commitment, team player, without necessarily saying the jargon, but emphasizing just how dedicated you are to get the job done, which most candidates don't demonstrate, for example. Secondly, there is a level of employers want to know that you're going to stick around with them, because on average, it costs a company between $100,000 and $180,000 a month to have one open position. Because when you calculate overtime, when you calculate people burning out and calling in sick, when you're calculate the overall dissatisfaction of working there because so much is being put on your plate and no one's appreciating you or no one's kind of promoting you or anything like that. When you calculate the time it takes managers to sit and interview candidates, the time it takes to train them, that even for training, you're doing surface level training, you're not doing in-depth training. When you break all that down, it's $100,000 to $180,000 per month, right? So when I speak to companies, I say, would you rather lose, let's say, $500,000 because you can't sign new contracts, you can't handle the volume that you have right now, your employees are disengaged, they're dissatisfied, or pay me $10,000, $15,000 and get you somebody right away, kind of thing. And so it's a conversation that even for entrepreneurs, look, when you start off as an entrepreneur, yes, you need to bootstrap and you need to do more yourself. As you grow, start figuring out what are the things that you don't like and delegate them to professionals. Like, I don't like doing accounting, so I hire an accountant to review and explain to me my finance. Like, obviously, I have an idea of what's going on in my business, but to explain to me where the finances are in terms of this. I hire a lawyer to review my contracts and say, these are the changes that need to be made if you want to protect yourself, for example, from costly mistakes. I had a business partner that taught me a very expensive life lesson that derailed me as an entrepreneur for many years, kind of thing. So it's that level of, I don't want to do this part. So in your case, when you're talking to some of the millennials about social media marketing, for example, get them to demonstrate their passion about it. Get them to demonstrate the results that they have produced before coming to you. Get them to demonstrate, here's kind of, if you look at a funnel, big, small, 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 here's people in front of you, people signing up, kind of thing. And when that's done, you're also bridging the generational gap in terms of conversation, but you're coming from a perspective of, okay, I get what you're saying. What do you need from me to get all this done? Kind of thing. So how much of a budget, let's say, are you looking at to get this stuff done? And then you can run the numbers and say, does this make sense for my business, for example? What a lot of entrepreneurs that are very attached to their business, they have a version of, this is my wonderful pink dolphin, and I've massaged it and I've loved it and I've cared for it. And again, at the end of the day, it's a business. So you have to make smart decisions for your business. And if you're not the right person to do certain parts of your business, make sure you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you that can do that for you, right? It's the same equation for job seekers. You have something of value to bring. So if you've trained in martial arts for 20 years, that is a level of dedication that most millennials do not have and don't know anything about. And so make sure that you understand how significant that is, and make sure that you relate. This is why, even if you don't have official work experience, under the standard of you've worked somewhere that people recognize, you have something that other kids don't have. You have kind of the patience to work with younger kids. You have the patience to explain to them what to do. So, you're a problem solver, you're a communicator because you have martial arts experience, for example.
Yeah, that's powerful. I let the kids know that I said, when you earn a black belt, it's something that's going to carry with you even through job interviews. It really doesn't matter if you did it as a kid or not, because it's going to show dedication, not just on your part, but your folks' part, of keeping you dedicated and keeping you in line and you achieving something and seeing it through. So I agree with that 100%. So we got some friends on here. So Emilio's on today. You want to say hi to him?
Hey, Emilio, good to see you.
Jose, I think, is on also.
Jose, great to see you.
Good. If you get, and Emilio, always out there pushing us, man. He's a good dude. So so I'm listening to this too, because even in my realm of, I use this quite often to promote myself, because at this stage of life, I'm trying to get out there and speak now. Now, just listening to what you're saying now, to make myself even more presentable, to be picked over somebody else, I think it's important now, just this little short time with you on how to market yourself a little bit better, so you're the one that's picked over. I've got I have a unique skill set, right?
Right.
Not many people can come up and say, listen, I have an organization that has a dozen people underneath me that I have personally trained. Now they have schools that all earn well over $150,000 a year in their net income. Yeah. And they're all successful and in the black. I've also promoted 700 black belts in my time, starting in 1990, including President Reagan and John Wooden, that I got to give honorary black belts to. Wow. So I think that when you listen to stuff like that, and then I never realized the auspicious of that occasion until, it's over, right? When I look back on what that really was that day, I knew it was special, but I really didn't know how special until they're gone. And then you look back on pictures and go, I cannot believe I'm standing in President Reagan's office barefoot in karate uniform, tying a black belt around his waist. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday.
But those are, even as a speaker, the wow moments. Because even if you said stories sell and statistics tell, right? Or so you have to understand, like, look, if you notice I'm wearing purple, if you look at anything I do on social media, anywhere, any interview, I'm always wearing purple. It's part of my branding. It's part of, I'm the guy with the purple, so that if you talk to me and you don't remember then my name, and you ask people, let's say, because we belong to the same masterminds, who's the guy with the purple shirt, right? They'll remember me from the purple shirt. So they might remember my name even if you don't. So a story like you just said, like, if you looked at my reaction, that's wow. Like, not only have you done the 700 black belts, but the fact that you got such a high honor of kind of awarding an honorary president, that too, like, how many martial artists can say that? How many martial artists can talk about coaching 11 successful other studios outside of their own that are not necessarily a franchise model, but their own individual business and their own little individual niche market, for example? And so it goes to the same thing. Look, it's a matter of, again, who do you trust and why, from a perspective of how they're related to you, right? In a sense that, like, there's a ton of career coaches. I'm not the only one. I don't claim to be. Okay. But have any of the ones that you're talking to written books, helped 11,000 people, worked in recruiting working with some of the largest companies in the world globally, have written 20 manuals for companies. So all of those things hand in hand, again, look, I'm also not delusional in that, for example, if you look at me, I'm white. And if you kind of have I want someone who's more ethnically or culturally related to me, I'm not the right person for you. If you want someone who's female to coach you and I'm a guy, then I might not be the right coach for you. And I totally respect and admire that. I don't need to be the coach for everybody, right? There's enough of a market for what I'm doing that there can be 1,000 like me, and we still wouldn't hit everybody that needs help finding a job. Because the real statistics in North America, which is United States and Canada, is, and this is not including pandemic statistics, but this is before pandemic, there were approximately 45 million people that are unemployed. There were 45 million people that were severely underemployed, meaning have a university degree or a college degree, but work at McDonald's, for example. And then there's approximately 30 million people going through some sort of education or retraining. That's a target market of 130 million people. Look, if I am blessed enough to help 130 million people, I'm not going to complain about it. But I'm also realistic because, for example, I know a big issue in the US, and some of the viewers, such as Emilio, are veterans, right? And respect them for the service that they had, but a lot of veterans have a hard time transitioning to the private sector because they don't know how to communicate that their service is leadership, their service is results, their service is focus, for example. And so part of the way that I've created my program is to go, I don't care if you've got 0 years of experience. I don't care if you have a criminal record. I don't care if you are a new immigrant to the country that, the language might be somewhat of a barrier as well. My system is so simple that anyone can go and say, yes, I understand. Here's how I present myself in a way that people who are listening to me are excited. Do I need everybody to offer me a job? No, I need one company to offer and recognize this is the value that you bring to the table, right? And this gap is becoming even worse now because during the pandemic, I think it was announced that around 65 million people lost their job. And so with automation and with AI, we're getting into an era where the retail jobs are going to be eliminated. So we need to be resourceful in showing that our intelligence, our skill set are needed. And it's anything can be relatable. It's just a matter of what is the profession you're going after. Like someone who's done babysitting, okay, there's still a level of responsibility. There's still a level of organization. It's just a matter of how you communicate the information to show results.
I think, yeah, you hit on a lot of things here, Joseph. The branding thing that you talked about, the man in the purple shirt, Jose put up too, right? He's the man in the gold shoes. Emilio, he's always kind of got that hat, and he's got a different, a very sparkling type of jacket that goes on. If you see me, I'm usually in a martial arts uniform.
Yeah.
So, or my tattoos. My tattoos are something. I didn't get tattoos for that. It just happens to be, I've got big arms that show off tattoos. I guess I don't know. It's a talking point. So, and I guess I can't make fun of Jose's gold pointed shoes he wears or whatever, because that's how everybody knows him. You know what I mean? So,
but here's the thing. There's, like, if I may, and this is where, again, we don't think about it, but there are so many things that can be done. You can wear a funny tie. You can wear a hat. You can wear cufflinks. They're particular there. Like, this is my favorite watch. Whoops, camera angle, right? And again, it's usually a conversation starter because it's weird looking, or it's a little bit different than most typical watches. Shoes, colorful jackets or shinier jackets. Like, for women, there's so much more they can do, because earrings, necklaces, scarves, even brooches. Like, there's like recognizing certain pins that these are what they mean. For Marines or for veterans,
right.
The fact that they served, it's a relationship, but like, it's earlier what we said in terms of building relationship, noticing something about that person, but it's also a way to be remembered. Because let's say when I go to a networking event, even though I have my signature in my email, I'm like, I'm the guy with the purple shirt that asked you this question, so that I trigger you to kind of go, oh yeah, this guy, I remember that conversation, or I love the conversation with this person. I'm going to follow up, versus I was at the networking meeting. Can I get a job? For example, right?
True. So true.
So there's a level where, again, it's, find the thing that's you. Find the thing that's like, okay, you have the big arms that, dude, okay, if that works for you. And again, I've seen some of the videos with the events that you participated with, Jose and Emilio, where you break boards. Again, and that could be your thing too, because that could be part of I'm the guy that will break boards in front of you and teach you how to break them, for example, without hurting yourself, right? So there's a lot you can play with that. Even glasses, like, I'm a little bit more conservative in my glasses, but you can have some really funky kind of glasses and people will remember you from the glasses. If you wear rings, well, I have my wedding ring, but, if you have like your university or your college, because especially in the US, it's a very big sense of pride to wear the ring of where you went to college, university, or then those are conversation starters. Those are conversations, because some of them are pretty intricate, some of them are pretty phenomenal, and so why not? Because at the end of the day, I don't care how if people remember me because I'm the guy with the purple shirt, but if people want to hire me because they've heard what I said, who cares? I don't care how they remember me.
Yeah, it's awesome advice. Really awesome. I was just at Sticker Shot with Daniel Gomez, and there was I think her name's Lori. She has the same. She said the same thing. She wears that certain dress, her certain high heels. That's what she's known for when she's on stage. That's what she wears. So branding was super important. Even this Beyond the Mat. So I rebranded myself after I wrote the book, and I kept my brand like the book, because that's really what it was, because it was that real talk, and I still have real talk, but Beyond the Mat is something that I do. People know me as having a martial arts school. That's what I do. And smash bricks. So that is what I do. So, people enjoy when I do it. And it's always been a conversation starter. I guess, when I look back at it, I got into it because I was impressed with it. I was like, man, that was so cool. I'm going to do that. And then I said, I'm going to do that and be a world champion. And then I did that part of it. And then I had so many lessons learned from it, traveling the world, smashing bricks, right? And getting to meet all these guys that do the same thing I do. So it was just a really fun thing. But I don't know. It's super. I do it so much that when you're in the moment, you just do it all the time. It's just something you do. You don't really realize the wow factor something has on somebody else when they've never seen it done.
And here's where there's a side conversation, and I'm gonna quote a business out of Seattle, the fish market in Seattle. It is world renowned for teaching business to other people, because every day you come in there, they're having a ton of fun doing what it is. And you might do a presentation to right now, and then an hour later, you're doing the same presentation, or a half hour later, you're doing the same presentation. And sometimes we forget that it's not the same audience. We forget that every time you do it, the people that are there, for them, it's a new experience. It's a, holy smokes, I just saw that happen. That is so cool. But for you, it's like, okay, it's go, I'll break it. No problem. It's like, I know the mindset, I know the routine, and for me, even though sometimes I've done a multiple podcasts, I might share some of the same information. It's also realizing that your viewers are not the same viewers as, let's say, Emilio, even though there's an overlap in the network, or Jose with the CLA tribe and so forth. There is a level where you might have a few, like you said, you have younger people that are now trained with you for so long, but now they're in college. And if my words can help them navigate, get hired faster, or get better jobs rather than just the minimum wage jobs, great. Something I shared made a difference, which is, not only brand yourself, but make sure you emphasize the results that you bring to the table. Make sure that you emphasize that you have a black belt. Make sure that you emphasize how long you've trained. Make sure that you emphasize that you've taught classes, because, it requires a skill to be able to teach. And there's a lot of leaders that sometimes have difficulty engaging their employees to follow the vision, because it's not communicated clearly. It's not, it's all over the place, for example, or whatever the case may be. Right. So it ties into,
this has been such a positive thing, just listening, because even myself, I'm a pretty humble dude. I don't really like talking too much about my rank and all the stuff that I've done, because it just sounds so like, just shut up, dude. Okay. And so I've never done it, but man, if you don't promote yourself properly, especially if you want to get out and speak and do these other things, I've had to learn how to, talk about myself and still be humble, but be a beast when I do it, right? You have to be a humble beast.
Look, I'm like that too, because I'm a Leo in terms of horoscope, if you follow that. And I used to be a huge show off and look at me. And, I've had to take a lot of steps back, because, I have mentors, Gregory Hall just mentioned the Millie Club, Dr. Obamboum is a huge mentor of mine, and I admire and respect him, where there's a level where even on my LinkedIn profile, if you look me up, my name, Josef Stetter, on social media, is pretty much all of the social media platforms. My title is not founder, CEO. My title is, I'm a recruiter. My title is, I'm a corporate culturist, or I'm a resume whisperer, because I just had something that I announced yesterday, which was a huge achievement for me. Brains Magazine has been following some of the content that I put up on LinkedIn, and they're ranked the 10th best business magazine in the world right now. And they reached out to me and said, your content is different. You're not regurgitating, you should say, your hardworking decade. You're actually giving real value to people, and you're doing it in a way that most people can understand. And we'd like to make you an executive contributor. This is a magazine that has 300,000 readers worldwide per month. And I was just like, on the one hand, I'm like, wow, this is amazing, right? But then the conversation in the background, well, what if people are judging me? What if people are going to kind of try and give me the evil eye? And kind of, it's like, no, I can't live my life being afraid to step into my light, step into my greatness. So I don't necessarily, I promote, I've written books, I've promoted, I've helped this many people. I promote, this is how fast I found you, the job seeker, the job. But those that really want to research who I am, there's a lot more there. I just, like you said, it's like, I don't need to give you my whole resume for you to trust. If all you care about is what my price is, you're not the right person for me, because you don't understand the value I bring to the table.
Copy that. True. Well, let's end this. We are coming up on the hour. Let's end with something that I want you to be able to promote what you do, what you have, what the name of your book is, and how people can, whether they hire you or what you have out there for people to come and see.
So as you mentioned, I basically have a program that helps people land their dream job now. It's actually the name of the program. And all it is basically a foolproof system that I've done all the homework for you. So starting with, the resume, and I'm putting it in the chat if you want to share it afterwards in the feed. Like I've given you 15 templates of resumes that I've used with my clients that have gotten hired as little as 2 days. I explained to you the psychology of it. I give you the 7 rules for the interview that guarantees a job. I give you not only where to network, how to follow up, what to wear so that you are remembered, for example. I teach you how to negotiate salary. I teach you how to maximize your job search, because most people just go on Indeed, which is the worst place to look for a job, because the success rate on Indeed is less than 5%, because one job posting on Indeed gets between 350 and 5,000 applicants. So if you don't know the tricks on how to get noticed, like, if you posted your resume, let's say in October, we're now end of March, you're on page 7,000 of the database. Nobody sees your resume. So I teach you those tricks. I teach you how to work with employment agencies and what to say to them so that they're more excited about placing you, because they make commission to place you with their clients, for example. And how to optimize your LinkedIn, because I work here, here's my job title, and here's how many years I've worked here is redundant to me, because I don't know what you've done. I don't know how good you are. Like when you introduce yourself, said, I have 11 people that have opened studios as a result of me. I've given out 700 black belts, right? I don't need to train with you to understand the significance of what you just said. I understand because I've dabbled in martial arts myself, but I understand how significant it is to give 700 black belts and to have 11 people kind of have their own successful business as a result of you, kind of thing. And those are things that, as a job seeker, you need to do. So the Land Your Dream Job Now program is designed to basically take out the headache of where do I start? What do I say? How do I do it? And I go through step by step in very plain, simple English. Here's why you're not getting hired. Here's the mistakes that you keep doing that's producing 0 results for you. So if you're getting 0 results, try it this way, for example.
I think that's just so true. Every single time I do a podcast, I feel kind of selfish, man, because it's just it's almost an hour I get with your expertise and to sharpen my skills to help others. And then I'll put it out there on my platform. But it's so important to have a coach. I don't care what it is, man.
Absolutely.
If you want to get ahead in life, you've got to have a coach push you over the top. Not that you can't do it yourself, but man, you're going to get socked every day and right in the face. You got to have that coach to pick you up and tell you what to ditch and dive and how to move your head and how to fight. You know what I mean? So
look, it's, and if I may use, listen, if you're spending 6 months to a year looking for a job and you're not getting results, you're doing it wrong. Your job search should not take more than 3 months. In the grand scheme of being proactive to follow up, being proactive to check in with recruiters, being proactive to do this. And again, conceptually, everybody on earth knows to do this. Conceptually, everybody on earth knows how to lose weight, exercise, and eat right? But it doesn't happen every day. So the coach, the mentor, I'm kind of like a personal trainer for job finding. I push you to do things that you normally don't do, but I guarantee you will get you the results, kind of thing.
Copy that. That's excellent way to put it. Joseph, this was great. I think we have another podcast in the making where I'd like to have some younger adults on with me and let them ask you some questions.
It would be an honor to do that.
I have some students here that in my mind, I think would do really well, because I'd like to hear from the group. I'd like to just,
Listen, so. I am of service, and I'm humble for, first of all, the opportunity to be on Beyond the Mat. Thank you for that. And I would be honored to do another one where you bring me some of your students and I interview them, or I challenge them on, or teach them how to, or all of the above, to ace any interview that they want and get hired, because people that see them, people that listen to them go, wow, I need to hire this kid right now.
I'm envisioning that now, just to see that, to watch you interact with some of the youth, because I'd like to see you interact with them.
I'd love that,
because it would help me, even be a better teacher for them. You know what I mean? There's so much more on the mat than punching and kicking. Punching and kicking is the easy part of what I teach. What's hard is not to use it when you really want to.
Yep.
And how to have self-control, and how to be highly confident, well-skilled, self-disciplined black belt is really a hard thing. So
Absolutely.
I really appreciate our time today. I have all your stuff. This will be out. The audio portion of this will be out. If you go to markcox.com, that is my podcast. I will have all your stuff. You'll have the audio and the video on my website, and all your stuff will be underneath you too. I'll make sure that it's out there, and I promote you the best I can. Sound good?
Well, it's a two-way stream. Thank you again. I've shared the lives in my feeds, and once I get them, also I will share them with the rest of the social media, because I think it's a win-win situation where, again, your listeners benefit and I get to share what I'm really passionate about, which is helping people find their purpose.
Have an awesome day, Joseph.
You
Great
too.
hour with you, man. I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed meeting you. Awesome, man. Looking forward to some more time together.
Amen. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye
Cheers.
now.
You've been listening to Real Talk with Mark Cox. Real life, real topics, real conversation. We're passionate about motivation, fitness, self-defense, weight loss, and coming at it from a real angle. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we hope you had fun. We know we did. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit us up on Instagram and Facebook at MarkCox100. Make sure to subscribe and review. And tell a friend or two about the show. For more, hit up the website at markcox.com. Till next time, keep it real.